and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and this podcast is being recorded on the traditional territory of the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Mississauga people. I've really been diving into learning about colonization and all about the Anishinaabe people who were here on this land where I am right now working from today, and also learning about my ancestors who came here to Turtle Island generations ago. And I have a small update to share around that, especially with what's happening in the world right now, and I'll share that later on in today's episode. But I want to dig in and get into this topic first, and then if you're hanging around right near the end, we'll get into some real-time updates and things. If you are new here, welcome. I'm a Canadian yoga teacher, mom of 3, entrepreneur, and a forever student. I love to ask questions, and that's why I think it's a really good fit that I'm here, able to podcast, because I get to talk to amazing people from around the world. Yoga teachers, people who specialize in entrepreneurship and life and how to do all of those things. And I get to ask them questions so that we can learn together. And that's what lights me up. I'm super grateful for OfferingTree. I use and love this software in my own business because it automates everything: bookings, payments, Zoom links, reminders, and so much more. And I'm really grateful that they bring the podcast to you, like this episode, and that they have given us a special podcast listener discount code if you are wanting to create a website or you're wanting to host online classes or a membership. Check that out over at offeringtree.com/Shannon. Today's episode is also sponsored by Pelvic Health Professionals. This is the other hat that I wear. I love to talk about pelvic health and how that connects to yoga. And that's really one of my niches for sure. One of my specialties is happening over there. And that's where we talk to global pelvic health experts, and we get to learn the most up-to-date information based on the questions that our members have. So visit pelvichealthprofessionals.com if you'd like to check it out and join us. I'm really excited to continue with Niche November. This is sort of the last episode that I had planned, but then a bunch of questions came in about niching down and specializing, and that's one of my niches. The 2 things that I decided to talk about a while ago on other podcasts and try my best to really stick to those, because it's easy for me to jump around and talk about lots of things and get excited about lots of things. But I really love talking about niching down and specializing as well as pelvic health. So it's been fun to answer the questions this month, and I'm going to keep answering niche questions for as long as you have them and highlighting some yoga teachers who have a niche or a specialty. So that might even get us to the end of this year. Oh my gosh, it's coming up so soon. And it might continue, who knows, into 2024. So if you have a niche question, make sure to submit it. You can do that on our website. If you go to theconnectedyogateacher.com, there's a button on the right-hand side that allows you to leave a voicemail, or you can send it by email. That's on our website as well. Or join our Facebook group, the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group. And you can also find the button to that from our website. And tag me in a post if you have a niche question. Today's episode is all about how to niche down and do that specialization work if you have no website. And this was really inspired by a question that was submitted. It's not in the question, but once I got looking around at this question, I was like, ooh, this is one of the things that I see happening is, let's say you don't have a website yet, but you want to specialize and niche down, or maybe you're thinking about building a website. This is the step before that. This episode is also for you if you feel like, oh my gosh, I do have a website, but wow, it's so outdated, or it's so mixed up, or I don't know if my niche is solid enough on there, or, all the time I look at my website and I'm like, gosh, it's time to do a little refresh, a little spring cleaning on it. And then it can build up over time and we can just sort of put it off and be doing the busy work. My website is kind of at that place. Well, I have 2 websites, 3 actually, but 2 main ones. And they get like that all the time. So if you are in that place where you maybe have a website, but it's not feeling simple or easy to use, you're in the right place. If you do not have a website yet, we're also going to talk about how to practice your niche, maybe on social media, maybe in email. Okay, so I asked for niche questions and Amy replied back. Thank you so much, Amy, for submitting this. Amy said, I'll take any help I can get. I've been trying to figure out my niche for 3 years now. Hang in there, Amy. I know what it feels like to be doing this for years. And honestly, just look at it as a continuous journey. If you listen to episode 349, and I highly recommend you do that, you'll figure out that this is just an ongoing process. And yeah, even I really took inspiration from episode 349 to niche down a little bit more. So do not feel like you're going to get to this place where, okay, all of the niche work is done. And I don't tell you that to scare you. I tell you that so that you feel like, okay, it's just an ongoing thing that I'm going to do as an entrepreneur. So then I went on to ask Amy, do you have any specific questions? And I also made sure to tell her about a recent podcast episode on niche work. Back in episode 345, I talked about trying a month of a specific niche. And so that's a real great episode for a baby step. And I asked Amy, have you listened to this one yet? Then Amy replied to me, I think mostly it's mindset, or maybe what to do from there. As I've said, I've been working on this for a long time, and it feels like the marketing experts say, figure out your niche and then just write all your content to speak to them and you'll be successful. I'm laughing at this a little bit, Amy, because you're right. That is exactly the boiled down version of finding a niche. It's like find that niche and then your audience will hear you and then you're writing the thing. But as you know, it's not really feeling like that. So Amy goes on to say, I feel like I'm kind of confident in who I'm speaking to, but then I freeze up when I think about the very next steps after discovering my niche. Sorry, not sure if this is an actual question, perhaps what to do very next after coming up with your niche, or how to get over the mindset struggles that come up around niching. Thanks for your help. And I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but I will. Thank you so much, Amy. I hope you listened to that episode 345. That's your homework. And then also you might be wondering, well, why is Shannon answering my question when she's talking about having no website with a niche? Well, here's what happened next. So because Amy hadn't shared her niche with me, I wanted to see if I could figure out what it was. Just by going to maybe her website or social media, I didn't know what I was going to find. I just typed in Amy's full name and yoga at the end, and here's what I saw online. So Amy has an Instagram account. I went there first because sometimes people are really posting a lot either on Instagram or Facebook, but not so much on their websites. It's easier to post something quickly to social media, usually, unless you have a really easy to use website, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so when I went to Amy's Instagram, Amy, by the way, I've requested to be your friend. It's private. And so I couldn't find any content on there. Totally fine, Amy, because I feel like once I kind of figured out your niche or what I think is your niche, I don't think you need to spend too much time on Instagram. So then I headed over to Amy's Facebook page, which then leads to a website. I saw a graphic there, gave me a website address, typed the address in because I was going to head right to Amy's website instead of hanging out on a Facebook page. And it didn't work. And so then I was like, okay, maybe I'll go back. Like sometimes, maybe I typed it wrong or whatever, looked for Amy's website, like in the Facebook, and it just kept leading me to say like, it's not up and running. It's not going. Now I did finally, with some little more sleuthing, nothing deep, just some Googling again and looking for previous websites. I did find 2 websites that Amy has, but what's interesting is that Facebook is the first thing that popped up that led me to that. And then I really had to dig further. And we don't want to make it that difficult when someone Google's, say, our name or some yoga in their area, and we don't want to make them be Google detectives. So that's when I decided, you know what, let's not even focus on the website here today, because I just got thinking that Amy doesn't have a website or had one and it's just not going anymore. So I went back to Amy's Facebook page and I saw there are some recent posts like up until the end of last month, so about 10 days ago. So I'm like, okay, this is the place where Amy's hanging out and marketing. So I did some scrolling on Amy's Facebook page, business page. And I also did some more digging. So what's interesting is when I scrolled, Amy, you have no idea that I was like really looking at all of your pages today. I hope you're okay with me giving this sort of play-by-play review here, is that when I scrolled the post, there was nothing that popped out at me as like, here's the niche. Definitely there were things about yoga and meditation, a little yin yoga was in there. Yeah, different things like that, but nothing that popped out at me to say, oh, now I know what Amy's niche is. But then I did a little more digging on Amy's Facebook page so you can actually see a tagline if you're looking for it, which a lot of people aren't in the place where there is a tagline on a Facebook group. And this is just an outsider looking quickly at a Facebook page. And that's what people are doing. They have a very short attention span. So the tagline that Amy has, because Amy is a yoga and wellness coach, I can see that. And the tagline is, I help women in midlife reconnect to their authentic selves and answer the question, what's next? So my number one thing here is if you don't have a website yet and you're using Facebook or you're using Instagram, and I like that Amy's using Facebook because actually her ideal people, if you're in like your midlife and kind of, let's say 40, 50 plus, I don't know, where is the cutoff for Facebook? But anyway, this is the place that age is hanging out more than Instagram or TikTok or all the other things that I don't even know about on social media. So I think it's a great place for you to be, Amy. And next, I'm hoping that I can give you some inspiration on what to post now to make sure that you're talking to that audience. Now, this is going to feel a little over the top at first because that's the way it's going to feel when we post over and over again about the same thing. You might think, well, I already posted about that. Like last month, I said something about that. I want to get to your Facebook page and know that it's for women in their midlife and that their biggest struggle and their biggest question now is what's next? And then I want to hear you talk to some people who are at that stage in life. What are the problems that they're facing? So I did a little more digging. So I feel like this isn't really fair because I didn't get this information just from your Facebook page, Amy. But when I did a little more detective work, Google detective work on your websites, I found something else. I found a quote that said, I help moms figure out what's next when their kids leave the nest. So what I would invite you to do for the next month, so if you go back and listen to episode 345, it's going to talk to you more about how to try on this niche for the month. Go back and talk literally for a whole month about empty nest stuff. So kids leaving home, it doesn't have to be centered around moms. It could be like parents when their kids leave the nest, but you've let me know that you want to speak directly to moms. And so how are they feeling? What are their struggles? What do you find online that people say when they have an empty nest that they like doing? And specifically, what is going to bring people to yoga? Maybe they're feeling a bit lonely and they want to be in community in a yoga class. So maybe they want to come to group yoga. So you can talk to people about the offerings that you have. Maybe your coaching as well really focuses in on this. Think about people who come to yoga. Think about why you get really excited to share yoga with these people. And I literally would love to see you post for a whole month, all content about empty nesters. That's all it needs to be. It might be around like sleep or, all the time you have, or how to like host Thanksgiving if you're an empty nester, or whatever it is. It just needs to lead back to being an empty nester. Now, I'm really picking something out of thin air here based on what I'm seeing on your website. And I just want you to practice trying it on for a month. So go listen to episode 345 for sure for a little more inspiration on how to do that. And tell me how it goes then. Connected yoga teachers, I'm popping in here for a moment because if you are listening to this episode and you actually are ready to make the leap from posting only on social media or sending out your email or calling your yoga students or however it is that you're connecting with them, if you want to take one step further and you want to create a website, because lots of people hop online and Google to find yoga, or if you wish your website was just easier to update or use on your own, make sure to check out OfferingTree. They have a 14-day trial and honestly the best pricing that I've found so far for an all-in-one software for yoga teachers and yoga studios as well. Plus, they have the best customer service I've seen. And I mean it, I've used just about every yoga software there is as a yoga studio manager years ago, and as a yoga teacher, and as someone who's been running my own business as a yoga teacher for over the last 18 plus years. We're coming up to 19 years very soon. So if you want to create an easy to use and update website, or you want to just switch over to this one, check out OfferingTree and use our discount code offeringtree.com/Shannon. Alrighty, let's get back into talking about how to niche with no website. Now, I'm choosing Facebook here for this, and I'm encouraging Amy to post on her Facebook business page every once in a while, maybe on your personal page as well. But Facebook is really where I see you showing up already, and that's why I've chosen that. If you are listening to this and you love to email people and that's where you're showing up, go for it. Do an email. I'd ask how you're building an email list, and then I think you either need to do that from social media or a website. And then I really want to highlight how important it is to move over to a website as soon as you can kind of make that happen. Because as we've seen on social media, as I've seen, especially this month, things can really shift and change on there very quickly. And it's nice to have your own place that you own, social media you don't own, and you more so have the control over a website or your email list. Definitely more than you do for social media. And let me clarify, you do not need a website to start niching down and specializing. So if you don't have a website today, all I want you to do is try one topic for the whole month. I don't know how often you want to be posting. We have some podcasts on that, on creating content and kind of how to figure out how often and where to post. But I'd say find something that's comfortable for you right now. Let's say you decide, okay, I'm going to post twice a week, or maybe you're already posting twice a week. Maybe you can post 3 or 4 times a week to a Facebook page. And try that out and make sure that it's the same topic all along and that it matches what your niche is. Also, talk to people who are your ideal yoga student. Ask them what questions they have. Ask them what holds them back from getting to a yoga class. Ask them what they love at the end of their yoga class, how it really helps them and how they feel after versus before, and highlight those and bring it back to your niche. So Amy, I hope this was helpful. I'm excited. Let me know when you start doing this on your Facebook page, where you start talking about empty nesters the whole time for a month. And it is going to feel repetitive. I know it is. I know it is. I know it so well. But trust me, there are so many ways to talk about empty nesters and that phase of life that if you're already excited to do it, you'll be able to continue it past the month. Now, maybe there's something else that comes out of it. So you're just trying this on for a month. You're going to listen to episode 345 to do that. And then take stock at the end of the month and see, okay, what other questions do people in this group have? What other challenges do they have? And how does yoga really help them with that? And if you're still feeling stuck, I'd love for you to take this example. I'm thinking of a friend right now who has 2 kids who are getting ready to go off to college and university. And she's getting worried about being an empty nester and how that's going to feel and how much she's going to see the kids and how life is really going to change. Think about that person. Either maybe they're not even there yet, maybe their kids haven't moved out yet, or maybe they have. And what do you think that person is doing? I'm thinking of this example because it's so good when we keep one person in mind and we kind of create the content for that person. I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have further questions about this, Amy, or any other listeners. Share in the comments on our website if you want to, if they're specific to this episode, theconnectedyogateacher.com/352. And please subscribe to the podcast, rate and review it if you haven't already. Share it with another yoga teacher who has some questions about niching down and what if I don't have a website. It's a huge gift, and I'm just so grateful when you share the podcast. Okay, I do want to share a short personal update. Before I do that, though, I also want to tell you where we can hang out together. So we have a really cool guest speaker coming up inside of Pelvic Health Professionals. Tyla Arnason is going to be talking with us on December the 4th. And yes, there's a replay. This call is happening live. It's pelvic health and cancer. I'll make sure to link to Pelvic Health Professionals in our show notes so that you can join that and check out that call. And then I'm really excited. Anyone can sign up for this. It's not just in our membership. Yoga for Pelvic Cancer with Tyla Arnason again. We're doing a 6-week series where Tyla is leading us through this. So this is an amazing way. We had Tyla on the podcast talking about yoga for the cancer community. I'll link to that episode in the show notes as well. This is sort of a continuation. If you have students who are dealing with cancer, this is a great yoga series to attend because you can be the student in the class, experience it, and then take that into your community. Or you can tell your yoga students about this if you don't offer something like this or they're really looking for something specific. So that's happening in the new year, January 10th to February 14th. And again, I'll link to that in the show notes. Next week on the podcast, the plan is that I'm going to answer more niche questions. So like I said, keep sending them to me and I'll keep answering them. I want to send a huge thank you to our entire team over here, Suzanne Crunch and Sinead, for all of the work that they do, especially for all of the work they do getting this podcast out to all of you. And I also want to thank you, dear listener, for being here all the way to the very end, for listening. Maybe you weren't even thinking that you needed this episode today. I'm hoping that it was helpful. But I know some of you just listen to every episode, and I'm so honored that you do. That's amazing. And I want to share a personal update. So if you are living in the world here in November 2023, you know that we are in this time of conflict between Israel and Gaza. And I sent out a couple of emails saying like how I'm feeling in this time, because I think it's really weird when I go to create an email, because my emails go out every week. So they're really on time. The podcast gets recorded ahead of time. So we are sometimes like 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks ahead. So they're not always as timely, but my email went out and I was really highlighting how I'm hearing from so many yoga teachers around the world that are rightly so, really struggling right now and really feeling like they're in a lot of pain. And I was so grateful for a few of you. I was so also amazed that many of you sent me this same resource. So I'm going to share it in the show notes, or you can search for it on YouTube. It's Gabor Maté is doing an interview with his daughter, Hannah. And I just appreciate this interview so much. I'll link to it. And the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway in this is to really look at people who understand the situation so well, who are really in there. And that's what I shared in my email. And I've also shared it on my Instagram. I'll link to my Instagram as well in case you want to check out my stories and where I'm at with this. I shared some videos. And mostly I've been highlighting the voices that are people who are like doctors and humanitarian aid workers and people who are really, they understand how things are right now. And yeah, I'm curious to hear what's helping you right now. I do know that it helps me so much to go outside and to like just be in nature and ground in nature and take breaks. And it also really, I think, is important to stay tuned to what's happening. As you all know, we've talked about it on the podcast, how yoga and social justice are very connected. If you're not sure and you're like, what? I'll link to a great episode that we did with Jivana Heyman talking about this. So take care of yourself so that you can keep speaking up. One of the big things for yoga is ahimsa, and that means non-harming. And that doesn't just mean just to you. It also means that we're calling out harm when we see it around the world or right next door. And that's part of yoga, in my opinion. If your opinion is different, I'd love to hear about it. You can share that in the show notes. That, again, is over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/352. Alrighty, connected yoga teachers, it's time for me to sign off and go outside for a little walk before I record another episode with more niche questions. Okay, so I want to leave you with a question. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?